Hello, everyone. Welcome back to a special episode of Uncanny Treks. It's a double episode where we are talking about four episodes. That's right, four episodes of Star Trek animation. First, we'll lead off with Lower Decks Season 4, Episode 6, Parth Ferengi's Heart Place from the 5th of October of this year. Then we'll talk about Episode 6 of the animated series from the 70s, the Filmation Star Trek, Survivor from October 13th, 1973. Then we'll come up to this week's Lower Decks, Few Badgeys More, Episode 7 on the 12th of October. And then we will go to the 7th episode of the Filmation Trek, Infinite Vulcan, on the 20th of October. I am Bob in Cascadia. That is Matt in the Southland. Matt, how the hell are you doing tonight?
I don't know, it still blows my mind every time seeing those, Bob, that this is exactly 50 years separated. like,
Yeah,
almost to the day.
And like at one point earlier in the coverage, I think it was like literally the same day, 50 years apart.
It's insane.
Yeah, it's nuts, and it really didn't even influence the decision to cover it. It just was a funny coincidence, and
Well, it's also a coincidence, Bob, is that these very short treks are trying to push Lower Decks and the animated series together. Like, they want you to watch them both. They're advertising them together as a thing.
Yeah. Which was weird because it was not, we had no idea Very Short Treks was happening at all. It was a total surprise. We've not talked about a lot of them because they're just kind of gross. There's not much to say. Although I will say, to be a real pet at Matt, it's not a total coincidence because the reason they are doing the Very Short Treks is the 50th anniversary.
Oh, well, that makes sense then. That makes actually perfect sense. Wow.
Yeah. So I guess we should say a little something about the last Very Short Trek, which aired not this week, but the prior week, the week of the episode 6 of Lower Decks. And I didn't really have any comment on it. There's not much of a story. It's more just like a riff of, like you said, comparing Lower Decks and Filmation Trek. But I was just grateful and amused that it continued to exclude Star Trek Prodigy from its celebration of Star Trek animation.
Me too. Thank you for doing that, guys.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Although, Matt, we got for the great news, for you and I, the devastating news that Netflix is picking up Star Trek Prodigy Season 2. Any thoughts on that?
So, Bob, who is watching Prodigy? Like, that's so bad that Netflix did their damn tactic work, Bob? Did their airplane flying by the Netflix offices work?
I would tend to say probably not, because I think, this always was what Paramount was going to try to do. And I do think that, I don't think this is the case anymore, but in the 2010s, Star Trek, and I think especially in The Next Generation, was a huge, huge part of Netflix's business model. And so I think to the point where there was initially early conversation about Discovery maybe being on Netflix before Paramount decided to launch what was, I think, then CBS All Access. So I think that Netflix wouldn't mind being in the Star Trek business again, just like they, aren't they picking up, sorry. Weren't they trying to pick up the Batman show too for a while there? Like, I think they don't mind being in the IP business of other companies. And I also don't think the campaign worked in the sense that the campaign was targeted at Paramount Plus, and Paramount Plus isn't picking it up, right? Like, nobody would blame Netflix for not picking up Star Trek Prodigy. Does that make sense?
I mean, yeah, it makes sense, I guess, in the grand scheme of things. But geez, come on, we don't need Prodigy.
No, it's still disappointing. It's a terrible show. And again, I just want to reemphasize, it's an awful, disrespectful, amateurishly done show. I don't understand why people pretend to like it. I also would note that it's really funny that there were no memes, there was no discussion, there was no enthusiasm for the show before it was canceled. So yeah, I don't know. It's a bad show, people. It's a bad show. I don't get it. The other thing that I did see that somebody pointed out that is an interesting point, and I wanted to run it by you, is that apparently, according to this commenter, Netflix has like a good library of like kids animation. And so they think that Star Trek Prodigy would fit in better there with where like the algorithm can bounce people between it and those other shows and vice versa than it would fit on Paramount Plus, where it doesn't seem to have much animation, and Prodigy, as you and I have noted, sticks out like a sore thumb amongst the Star Trek properties.
It really does, but as we get into more discussion, not specifically this episode, but the next episode, I feel like Lower Decks is crossing over into a territory where their animation is just not jiving as well with Star Trek. And we'll get into that a little bit in the next episode.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's bothering me.
Okay.
Because at first I thought maybe that Paramount Plus was trying to do its own like spin on Adult Swim or some weird shit. You know what I mean? Especially with these very short treks. I felt like they were trying to take these properties.
Yeah, that seems to be the vibe between very short treks and Lower Decks. That I'd very much say that seems to be the vibe.
Yes, and then they were trying to like sneak in the animated series just to be like, okay, this is like nostalgia funny or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. But I don't know, do you think that Prodigy might have a better shot on Netflix where apparently there's other trash computer animation adventure shows for kids?
It's going to end up on their kids' channel and it'll just be sitting there. That's all.
Okay. Yeah, okay. I hope that's what happens. I hope it gets canceled again after season 2. That would be very funny. Yeah, but hell of Star Trek Prodigy. All right, Matt, you ready to talk about the plot of Lower Decks season 4, episode 6, Parth Ferengi's Heart Place?
Sure. All right, Bob. So in this episode, hold on, I have the wrong. Yes, I do have the right one open. There it is. Okay. While Freeman assists negotiations with the Grand Nagus about Ferengar's application to join the Federation, the Fantastic Four have to update the Starfleet travel guide on Ferengar.
Well, Matt, I can say I was very happy to see First Clerk Lita. I was not happy to see Grand Nagus Rom.
Bob, I was happy to see both of them, and I thought their whole facade as like a professional and adult really served its purpose pretty well in this episode. I thought it was entertaining.
For people who don't know and haven't listened to our coverage of Babylon 5 and Star Trek DS9, I hate Rom. I guess this is the episode where I flog all the sacred cows that internet fandom of Star Trek tends to love, which is to say Prodigy and Rom. They both suck. But that said, I did have a kind of, and this is skipping down a little, but I did have this question. On DS9, do you remember if we ever saw Rom, like, play an idiot for advantage? I always just thought he was an idiot on DS9.
That's the whole thing, Bob. Maybe he's just the ultimate con man the whole time.
Yeah, but I don't, like, he doesn't get a lot of advantage out of being an idiot on DS9. I mean, ultimately, yeah, he does marry Lita and become the Grand Nagus, like, but that doesn't happen till later in the show, and I don't recall it having that much to do with him playing a moron.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't really end up great. I mean, it ended up, in the grand scheme of things, it ended up fine for him, but, like, episode to episode it did.
Yeah, like I don't ever, again, I might be well forgetting something, so people can feel free to correct me on Twitter, but I at Uncanny Tracks people, but I just don't ever remember like Rom playing a moron to get something he wanted on the show.
Yeah, we'll have to go back and take a look, Bob, because I really think there's got to be at least a couple episodes where that happens. I don't know for sure.
Interesting. Well, hit us up on Twitter. So, Matt, I know people think that restaurant, bar, hotel, and museum reviewer sounds like the best job, but honestly, it doesn't like sound like a good job to me.
Bob, you probably just don't like to travel much.
No, I do. It's not that. Like, I don't mind going to new places. It's just going to new places with the obligation of having to have a perspective on it and then having to write about it to a bunch of braying morons who read such things. That just doesn't sound fun.
So what you're essentially saying, Bob, is you don't want to take something that you enjoy, such as traveling, and then turn it into work.
Or Star Trek?
Or Star Trek, yeah. It just makes it work.
I mean, this podcast is work, but it's not that much work.
Right, yeah. I mean, we're just talking about Trek here. But I'm just saying...
Even
it can backfire really quick if you do take something you do enjoy, like travel or looking up things or going to museums, hotels, bars, all that kind of fun stuff, and then making it where you have to review it.
Yeah, I guess I would say that I think talking about Star Trek, like, even though there are work aspects of it, and some week, like, we just, what is there to say? There doesn't seem to be anything useful to say. But in general, like, intellectualizing it with you and talking it out, like, makes it more pleasurable. Whereas, but
I guess if we were doing it, I guess if we were having to like really put a strain on ourselves, then it would be a problem. So I guess there's a fine like medium to where you have to.
Yeah.
That goes for
But
anything.
also, just like, I think like bars, hotels, tourism. I don't know. There's not a huge like intellectual aspect to those things. Like, does the drink taste good or does it not? Does the food taste good or does it not? Like, I don't know. It just seems.
It's very touristy. But you got to remember when you're going on vacation, Bob, you got to dumb it down a little bit. You're not there to stimulate your brain. You're there to relax.
Well, there's also like the Karen element to it too, of like,
oh god, that's the
didn't
worst
arrive
part.
on time. Yeah. So
That's
I don't know.
the worst part.
It's not the dislike of travel or the dislike of new places. It's just I just don't really see the point of being a reviewer of those things.
Yeah, I think if I had to review anything in that whole like category, it would be hotels. Because I mean, really, it's very like criteria based, simple to follow. Yes, I had towels. Yes, there was this. Yes, there was this. You know,
on a certain hand, it's the most Karen of those things to review, but on the other hand, it's like the least because it's like pretty clear, like, okay, what would constitute acceptable or good service, and you're not being so like subjective and personal about it.
Exactly. Yes. Whereas with food, it's like teach his own. I don't know. The food may be good. The food may be bad. Depends on how my taste buds are feeling that day.
Yeah. All right, Matt. So we have a fact from Ransom. Are you ready to deal with this fact? The fact is the Cerritos crew is statistically the horniest and least romantically committed crew in the fleet.
Yeah, Bob. This is coming from the only Star Trek character I've ever seen naked in Spread Eagle.
Was that Ransom? I thought
that was not Ransom. That was Boimler. My bad. Well, Ransom was probably there in that orgy. The fact I'm using this sentence, Bob, just explains how horny the Cerritos is.
how horny and non-romantically committed the Cerritos is.
Yeah.
I think it would probably make Boimler very happy that in your memory you've substituted Ransom for him. That it would speak to an essential similarity there that he would find encouraging.
That's some Freud shit, Bob.
Indeed, Matt. So I had forgotten that Ferengi is just Seattle with Vegas level neon.
Yeah, that rain. That's what I remember because it's so weird that it's just so recognizable to me because they use that same like aesthetic when they showed it in the episode of it was a Family Business, I think, season 3 of DS9.
Yeah.
You finally get to see what it looked like, and you're like, oh, okay, it looks a lot like fucking Seattle.
Yeah, really muted green on the outside, really bright gold in the interiors. Yeah,
and rain all the time.
Yeah. Although I will say Seattle rain and Ferengi rain is a little different. I think I explained this on our Family Business episode that in Seattle it's more like a mist and it's constant but it's not heavy.
Mm-hmm. And I'm to say, I've been there in the rain before and I can tell you that pretty much sums it up. Because you can walk around without an umbrella and you're okay most of the time.
Yeah. Seattleites actually don't use umbrellas by and large. You just need a good jacket and you're fine.
Yeah.
All right, Matt, do you follow what Mariner means when she says of Ferengi, it's like what heaven would look like if God were stupid?
Okay, so no, not really, but it did sound funny. And I really did laugh at it.
I think it makes more sense to me as I read it like a week out from the episode, but at the time it was mystifying me a little bit. Maybe just the presence of Rom in the episode was making me dumber. Maybe that's what was going on.
That could be it, Bob.
So, Matt, are you going to the Museum of Gambling, the Museum of Haggling, or the Museum of Bribery?
Probably we go to the Museum of Haggling, just because that seems like a skill that could help you out.
Okay, so you're looking at it as like pedagogy. Okay.
Yeah, like I can learn something from it. Yes.
Okay. I'm more looking at it as celebration and stimulating my interest, and I think bribery would be more interesting. But that said, if I learn how to, do a good bribe, I'm probably not going to because I'm so cheap. But if I do learn how to, that would be a useful skill in my life.
Well, because you're so cheap, you need to go to the Museum of Haggling with me. That's.
Yeah, no, it would fit my personality more, but bribery would fit my interest more, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense.
It's one of those, I'm also cheap with my time, Matt, and I view haggling as a waste of my time. So I don't actually haggle very often. I'm more apt to just walk away if it's like, no, too expensive, not doing it. Not going to waste my time arguing.
Well, at least we both agree that gambling, Bob, that's the worst.
I don't know. I like to gamble, but not that much, thankfully.
I hate to gamble. I never win, so.
Well, the way to gamble is to gamble with your friends around, at a poker table. It's not casinos suck. I hate casinos.
You mean I shouldn't go to the casino and just keep handing them money?
No, that's dumb. Oh. But you should either try try to take money from your friends or people you know who you don't like, or have them take your money. That adds a better quality to it, I would say.
It seems like it would be more satisfying, yes.
Yeah. All right. To keep going, I really do adore Boimler's confused pronunciation of commercial.
Yeah. It's just so Ferengi.
Well, it's funny because it's so Ferengi in the sense that it sounds like a Ferengi pronouncing a human word, but it's so un-Ferengi in the sense that commercials are everywhere on Ferenginar and Boimler doesn't know what they are.
Yeah, well, I don't think they had televisions in Star Trek, Bob, in Starfleet. We don't see them ever watching TV.
Yeah, it's utopia, Matt.
Yeah. In fact, I think I did a little, tiny bit of research reading some article somewhere. Forgive me if I'm 100% wrong out there, but there was an episode of Voyager, apparently, where Tom Paris watches television, and it's like an old school box TV with antenna or something on it.
Oh, I don't remember that, but if any character was going to do it, it would be Paris.
Yeah. And I feel like something's mentioned in that episode about television. I don't know for sure, but it was in one of the articles. I swear to God, I read so many damn articles, Bob, a week on Star Trek. It's ridiculous. And how
it does seem
it advanced my mind that much.
It does seem, I think more from DS9 and Voyager, if I'm remembering correctly. Although probably more Voyager and there's episodes with the Doctor writing a holo novel, but it seems like holo novels, which is to say holodeck, complicated holodeck narratives have sort of replaced television as and movies as the thing that comes out that people get excited about.
Yeah, I feel like in the Star Trek universe, at least during that, like you said, during the DS9 Voyager times, yeah, you're going to be on the holodeck more than anything for your entertainment. I mean, you can't beat that. There's no way you could beat being in a completely different world. Watching it on a flat screen is not going to be as impressive.
I don't know, man. I mean, maybe you can just chalk this up to being early days, but with how I don't want us to get the explicit tag, but how freaking crappy the metaverse and the VR stuff and all this looks right now, and how off-putting and upsetting and nauseating it is.
It will get better.
Will it though?
Yes, Bob. It's like airplanes. If you run an airplane back in the 20s, it was not the same.
It was much better.
It is now.
Airline travel has gotten straight worse since the 70s, dog. It's been worse and worse since the 70s.
Yes, Bob. Mass public transportation, yes, it's not that great, but it
has nothing to do with the number of people take it. It has to do with deregulation. So they cut down the seat sizes. They cram more people on the thing. It's air travel's a terrible example because air travel peaked in terms of comfort in the 60s or the 70s. It's miserable now. It's awful, and it's been getting consistently worse over the course of my life. Take it as somebody who's regularly flown for 13 years now. I fly at least once a year, and then I flew a few times before that. It's been progressively worse.
So give me a better example of something, Bob.
No, nothing gets better because we live in a hell society where nothing works.
We are the opposite of Star Trek.
Has Twitter gotten better?
We're not going to get to holodecks ever.
Yeah. Has Twitter gotten better, Matt? No, it hasn't. Has Google Chrome gotten better? No, it hasn't. Nothing gets better. It all gets worse. Do your Google search functions work better now? Hell no, they don't.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Do you like Facebook, Matt? Oh, wouldn't you like it better if it wasn't 3/4 promoted content?
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. My newsfeed has become nothing but ads. But yeah, so what you're saying is, Bob, the holodeck we're going to get is going to suck, is what you're saying.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I have a two-tiered argument. One is that I'm uncertain that the technology can ever get over being so off-putting. But my second tier of my argument is that even if in theory it can, in the hellscape that we live in the 21st century on Earth, it's not going to.
Yeah, it's not going to get anywhere until you don't have to wear a helmet to do it. That's why the holodeck works. Yeah. If you can just walk into a room and it looks that way, great. If you have to put a helmet on to make it look that way, no one's going to do it.
We should have saved this argument for when we actually do first meet the holodeck on the Filmation Star Trek in a few episodes.
Well, don't worry, Bob. I'm sure it will spark much more debate.
All right, Matt. What was your next point?
Bob, just to settle my mind, Armin Shimmerman doesn't voice any of the Ferengi, right, on this episode?
I don't think so. Which is keep going on that.
Yeah, this man is like single-handedly responsible for making the Ferengi like a relevant race in Star Trek because I hear him in everything that's said. Like I hear Armin Shimmerman, not a Ferengi, and the way he would alter words with his voice. In the way he made the Ferengi his own, like in a sense, like that dude needs way more respect. Almost in a sense, he needs as much respect as Leonard Nimoy needs for Vulcans.
Yeah, clearly. Or I guess you could also say Michael Dorn for Klingons.
I was about to say, I was going to say Michael Dorn for Worf, because, I mean, you think Klingon, you think Worf, you think Spock, you think Vulcan, you think Spock most of the time. But Ferengi, definitely Armin Shimmerman.
He was in the DS9 episode, though, right?
Oh, yeah, he was definitely in that, yes. Remember, he sounded
the
a little off.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I guess they just didn't want to like overshadow Ram and Lita being here with him appearing, you know?
Oh yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, for sure they did. I bet Armin Shimmerman really costs a little more than Ram.
Yeah, but yeah.
And Lita.
Yeah, he also costs a little more. Well, and it has been interesting that the Quark has been like one of the most teased characters of New Star Trek. Like he was teased on Picard, like he was teased, I think, in prior seasons of Lower Decks before you actually saw him in season 3 in the DS9 episode. So yeah, it's kind of interesting in that sense that he is, I think in general New Trek kind of recognizes his importance.
Yeah, he is. He's one of the more he's one of the characters that's come a lot further from DS9, like just that show. I mean, because he also didn't he make appearances on Voyager too?
Only in the pilot, but you're right that he is one of the few characters to appear on Next Generation, DS9, and Voyager.
And Voyager, yeah. So he's branched out a little bit.
He has a guest appearance in the pilot of Voyager, and then he has I think he appears on a transmission in like a season 7 episode of Next Gen. All right. Well, to go back to the question of TV, I will say I would love to see the TV show Pog and Dar, Cop Landlords. That bit made me laugh so hard.
Yeah, I would totally watch that show. I don't know what channel it would air on, though. I don't know how familiar you are with, like, cable TV now, Bob.
Well, I mean, my initial answer is to say UPN, but I don't think that's an option.
Yeah, that puts you back in, like, 1999, so so that's why I wasn't going to make a joke, because I'm like, Bob's not going to get it.
It would fit right in with Voyager, SmackDown, and Judge Greg Mathis. It would be great. Oh man!
Strangely, all of those shows are still airing.
Or sorry, I would love to watch it after Judge Greg Mathis. That would be great.
I could see Pog and Dora on like the TLC network or something.
I know what TLC is.
Or the History Channel. It could be one like between Pawn
Stars. Oh yeah, man. I don't know what the History Channel is. You can't make a joke about it because Bob.
Well, the problem is, Bob, I don't know what was airing on the History Channel when you watched it at the time. There was a time when History Channel showed history documentaries. Now it just shows Pawn Stars.
That's never true. There was a time when the History Channel showed World War II documentaries.
Boomers gotta have something to watch.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I know that the History Channel is now just like reality TV shows about like getting deals in pawn shops. Like I'm aware of this.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah, I could see it on that channel for some reason. It could be like they only air it once a week though. Between that and American Pickers, which I don't know if you know what that is.
Oh God, yeah. Yes, I've watched multiple episodes of that with one of my uncles. Oh God, it's so bad.
Yeah.
See, I'm not as immune from general pop culture as you think. I'm just immune from what the kids are into, Matt. It's a difference.
Yeah,
what old boomers are into, Matt? I'm up on that shit.
Hey, you got it down.
Oh man. So another great line from this episode: nobody's read a book in a Ferengi public library in over a millennium.
Yeah, well, that's called progress.
I mean, Matt, I think that's just called contemporary American public libraries.
The fact public libraries still exist, Bob, is just the weirdest thing to me. I know you disagree.
Don't knock it. At least they're there.
It's still standing. I have no idea how.
Yeah.
Of all the things I thought wouldn't be around at this point, libraries are totally like the one thing I thought would be gone. I know you hate it. I know, Bob. I know you hate it, but I'm just telling you. Like, I just figured that's something that.
Yeah, we live in a hell society, man. Yeah. It's established.
Well, everything's digitized, so you have access to it at your fingertips. People are like, I borrowed free shit from the library on my phone. I'm like, yeah, I'm downloading it the same way.
Yes, Matt. But when you download it from the library, it's more regular, less chance of viruses, less chance of getting a notification from your ISP.
Don't you also have like a damn time limit on it?
Well, yeah, it's a fucking library, man.
And there it is.
Time limits are good. Like I know you pirate tons of things that you never wind up looking at. Don't tell me you don't. I know
all
you
the time, Bob. I have a whole I have a whole pirate room just in my digital library. Pirate.
That's someday gonna get you sent to Camp Guantanamo.
Oh, if I go to prison because I downloaded comic books, that's the worst reason to go to prison. What you in there for? I downloaded issue number 427 of Action Comics.
426 was fine, but 427 was too much.
Yeah, that's what my IP service provider decided to come at me. Yeah.
Oh man. I'm having this vision of me coming to see you in prison and bringing like a jump drive up my ass so I can get pirated material because you're such an addict that you need more.
Bob, do you have the next set of issues from such and such? I'm not gonna fucking read them. I just want them there. Like,
I just need to know that they're there, and I don't have a time limit on them, unlike that library.
Then I can read them anytime I want to. Oh, you know where they do have libraries, Bob? Prisons.
Yeah. You'll get a new appreciation of the library system from prison, Matt.
Yeah, because you have all the time you need there to do whatever you want.
Oh, man. So I will say that Quark having a Starfleet-themed bar and grill is pretty funny. Very, very logical direction for his character to go. And I also deeply, deeply resent that Rom and I have similar handwriting.
Oh, yeah, Bob. I cannot tell you how many meetings I have sat in at work where either a parent or a teacher will show me some, like, shitty handwriting, and my first thought that pops into my head is, like, that's as bad as Bob's was at that age.
Hey. Not at that age. That's as bad as Bob's is
now.
And
I just want to tell the parents, I'm like, don't worry. Your kid's going to be okay. Just look at my friend Bob.
He's doing great over here. We're bringing a jump drive up his ass.
He lives in Seattle. It rains there a lot, and there's liberals.
Yeah, not as many as you would think. All right, I will say the return of the energy whip, very nice. You'll love to see it.
Yeah, I saw that, and like the little pleasure center of my reptilian brain gave me this slight little shock. Because they still acknowledge those early appearances of the Ferengi and their whips.
Indeed. All right, Matt, who is your character of the week for this episode of Lower Decks?
Well, Bob, it has to be Rom because I know you hate Rom. But I secretly think he's one of the best characters to come out of DS9. I mean, I think he really pulled one over on us the whole time.
I'm not going to acknowledge that. I'll give it to Rutherford and Tindy. It was a very good episode about their relationship. That said, I still struggle with it because neither of them strike me as particularly straight. And so, I don't know. That was a little weird. But still, good episode for them.
Yeah, I really didn't see them going together. I'm so saw Rutherford and Boimler being a thing.
Yeah. They were co-parenting a plant.
All right, Bob, so let's talk about this Star Trek animated episode.
Yeah, episode 6, The Survivor. You want to walk us through the plot of Survivor, Matt?
So the Enterprise rescues Tycoon Carter Winston, who's no longer what he seems, and diverts the ship into the Romulan neutral zone.
Yeah, so to lead off, speaking of dystopias, I'm not sure what's more dystopian. The Federation still has rich magnates like Carter Winston, or they have such strict personal ID requirements, which Spock is very happy to enforce.
Yeah, Spock went through the trouble of running that ID through the ringer, but like it didn't do any good. And he had a whole setup for this. Like he had to run it through the computer, then it had to show a picture of him like in the same outfit he was in the other room. Like it's it was very accurate, but it still was wrong.
Indeed. He still faked it. So, of course, the big revelation here is that Carter Winston belongs to an evil shape-shifting race of aliens called the Vendorians. And when he unveils what he looks like to his ex-fiancée, who we will talk about in a minute, I believe the line is, "Can you love this?" So, Matt, I ask you, looking at the Vendorian design, this green floating tentacle monster that's also a shapeshifter design, can you love this?
Yeah, it's pretty scary looking, but it looked just like any Hanna-Barbarian alien. Like it has the tentacles and it floats. That's our alien.
I thought it was kind of cool though. I wouldn't, maybe the shape shifting angle isn't as essential, but it's like I just kind of like the design. I think it has been in the background of Lower Decks before, and I wouldn't mind seeing it again. And maybe have a Vendorian ensign or something.
Yeah, I mean that would make sense. Yeah, look, I mean there's some consistency there for sure.
This also does have one of my favorite lines of dialogue in the whole animated series, which is McCoy talking to Spock when this is while Kirk is searching for the Vendorian posing as Carter Winston. And McCoy asks Spock, "You said that I'm a man of curious habits? Jim's talking to a table."
Can I say that McCoy's voice acting has become way better as we've gone through these episodes?
Hey man, it is only his sixth episode doing voice acting, so DeForest Kelley is learning on the job, and he's doing a good job.
I'm just saying it's better than the first episode where I'm not even sure he knew what he was doing. Like I think that it's like they stuck the recorder in his face and were like, "Hey, say this," and he did it. It seems like they actually gave him the script and said, "Read through this, and then you're going to have to record your lines."
Yeah, unlike Jimmy Doohan, who is just a natural for voice acting.
Yeah, that man was like plotting out the voices and everything. He's
so
like,
Matt,
Star Trek's running out. I got to do something.
maybe my future is in Hanna-Barbera cartoons for kids.
I'll do the voice of any character they give me. I don't give a damn who it is.
Only 2 lines, even better.
Yeah.
So
2
Matt,
lines, $50. James Doohan would be like the ultimate cameo person right now. Like,
oh hell yeah, that actually, that makes me sad a little bit that he didn't live to do cameo. He would love cameo.
Oh, he would be like creative with it and shit. Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, it makes you sad. So, any thoughts on the similarities or the disanalogies between Vendorians and changelings, Matt?
All right, this episode would have been 100 times cooler if the Vendorians were actually changelings. Like, I need someone to go back and just redraw all the Vendorians as Odo-looking dudes, and I'm good. Because that would have been so awesome had they like met the changelings that early on, like at least one of them.
In a certain sense, it actually would make more sense because when Carter Winston / the Vendorian is saying to Anne, like, "Can you love this?" and it's just like he's just a tentacle monster, and it just doesn't feel anything. But if he looked like Odo and he was like, "Can you love this?" You'd be like, "Yeah, that's pretty messed up. He looks pretty busted."
The animation they would use would be just like a Mudman. I mean, they would. They would just go with that generic Mudman look.
Yeah, so it is pretty ironic that after last week's somewhat progressive portrayal of Uhura and Chapel and the female crew running the ship, in this episode we have security officer Ann Norad, who's perhaps the most sexist depiction of a woman in Star Trek history.
She also happens to look just like my wife,
which I'm sure adds a certain je ne sais quoi to the watching experience for you.
Yeah, she stuck out like a sore thumb in this episode. It was so weird. Like, I don't know why they went with this characterization, but then again, it was the 70s, so it worked fine then.
Well, I do have an important question to ask, Matt. Does Nichelle Nichols voice your wife?
No, which is even more odd. Like,
yeah. Well, that does add like a third wrinkle to it. That not only is it just weird after last week, and not only does she look like your wife, but it's also they're gonna have Nichelle Nichols voice a new white character, and then they're also going to introduce Imress as the Cation replacement for Uhura in this episode, which she's not going to totally replace Uhura, right? Like it'll alternate, but it's still just very weird choices all around.
Yeah, it's odd. I don't know why they went in that direction. Did Nichelle Nichols just not want to be Uhura?
Yeah, because it's going to be Majel Barrett is the voice of Maress, right?
Yeah. So I'm guessing it was just her not wanting to do the voice actor work. I would guess, but then she's doing.
Well,
other
but she's
characters.
going to still be around though. Like they're not getting rid of her. So I don't know.
It's like, look, why did they introduce Maress?
Well, I think in general the mandate was like, okay, we can have more alien crew members, right? Since we have we can animate it, which that's cool. I get that, but it's just very weird just in this episode just to like have her replace Uhura and then have Uhura do somebody else. I don't know.
Yeah, it's odd.
So speaking of Maress, Matt, which I'm going to continue to say like 5 different ways, do you see what I was saying a long time ago about the difference between her design as a Cation and the Kzinti design, which you've seen in Lower Decks?
So I 100% understand the difference between the two cat aliens. I get it. My real problem is I need to know who wins in a fight if a Cation and a Kzinti fight each other.
I would say that it had been pretty well established in the kind of para-canon and in the stuff about the Kzinti that's not necessarily in the Star Trek universe, that they're like big bad alien warriors. So I would generally feel like the Kzinti would win, but I will say that I feel like with Dr. Tayana on Lower Decks, we've been moving more towards the Cations behaving in more cat-like ways. And so maybe that makes them more competitive than I would have prior thought. But yeah, I think the original idea was it was something like a Vulcan-Romulan split, and the Kzinti were the Romulans, so they would win.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So, and I do remember reading up that the Kzinti were more of like a warrior race anyway. So, yeah.
And I think they're also generally portrayed as being pretty like bigger than
bulky.
The Cations. Yeah, bulky. Yeah, exactly. Speaking of the Romulans, though, at the end here in the neutral zone, we do get to meet some animated Romulans. I do love the strong green of both the Romulan uniform and the background of the ship. Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah, I really think they went out, like all out back then to ensure you could visually see the difference between the Romulans and the Vulcans. So they made sure the color scheme was very different.
No confusion. No confusion. So, Matt, I've said before that when Bob was a young Bob, he deeply, deeply loved the novelization of this episode. They would put out novelizations of animated series episodes. I think they would call them Star Trek, like Log 1, Log 2, and so on. So I had the one with this one. I loved it a lot. Do you see why?
I mean, I do. It's not a bad episode. It's probably one of the better animated tales you forced me to watch at this point. It's got a little bit of everything, and it reminded me of Season 3's DS9 episode, The Adversary.
Yeah, which for those of you that don't remember, that's basically the DS9 does the thing, but with a changeling on the Defiant.
Yeah, it's the same idea of them having to hunt it down and figure out who is who they say they are and that kind of stuff. Fun times.
All right. So, Matt, who is your character of the week for Survivor?
It's got to be Spock, Bob, for standing behind that protocol concerning the licensing.
You and middle management, Matt. You just love to see a middle manager following his bureaucratic rules.
You go, Spock. You uphold the law.
I'll give it to Maress. I like her. It's good to see her, even though it is like just very strange in the context of the progression of the series.
Yeah.
All right, Matt. Are you ready for Lower Decks Season 4, Episode 7 for a few Badgeys more?
Sure, Bob. So we have a few Badgeys more. While the Cerritos searches for a missing Binar ship that Badgey killed, Tindy and Boimler get sent to the Daystrom Institute to meet with evil computer prisoners Peanut Hamper and Agamus.
Did you catch the Clint Eastwood reference in the title, Matt?
Yeah, Bob. Name of the Clint Eastwood movie is For a Few Dollars More.
Yeah, great movie. Him and Lee Van Cleef, baby. All right, so to start out with, at the beginning, we have the Drachmani. Did you remember them? They're a scavenger species. They're original to Lower Decks.
I did not, Bob. And I'm having a lot of trouble. I don't know if you're having this issue too, but I don't remember anything from the earlier seasons of Lower Decks. Maybe it's just because I only watched it once or maybe twice at the most.
I do, but I remember it in a pretty vague way, and
That's my issue I'm having.
Yeah,
I think we consume too much.
Maybe so. Well, and we'll have a couple more issues that kind of speak to this. I also did not remember the Drachmani, so you're not alone on that. I did enjoy the more junior Drachmani's line though. It's trying to scavenge you.
Yeah.
But in contrast, Matt, did you remember the Binars?
I do, because they look like the aliens from Alien Nation with their head sculpt type thing, and they're a little shorter than we are. But are they the ones they work in pairs, like binary, and they're connected to like a central computer on their home planet?
Yeah, and they have a pretty memorable appearance early in Next Gen, which I think stuck with us as kids, and they showed up in the para-canon in the novels a fair amount too. So kind of to this issue of forgetting, I mean, it's just kind of funny that we've seen the Drachmani probably within a year, don't remember them. We saw the Binars as kids, and they're indelibly stuck with us. But I knew Jeffrey Combs had voiced an evil computer on the show, but I'd totally forgotten the name or the specifics of that evil computer. But he voices Agamus, and he was doing that standard original series thing of dominating a planet, but then Mariner and Boimler have to transport him to prison. The shuttle crashes on a moon. He tries to trick Boimler is basically the plot of the episode.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, do you prefer this sort of like this long-term storytelling with Lower Decks where they go back to these characters? You like it? Okay.
Yes. I think they need to. I mean, as much as I love this show, it is like the gags are running a little thinner in season 4, and they're still somewhat reluctant to really explore characters outside the Fantastic Four. So, yeah, I think continuity is good and useful storytelling at this point. And especially, I do I take it you did remember Peanut Hamper, right?
Oh, yeah, I remember Peanut Hamper, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was last season, I think.
Well, she had an episode last season, but then I think she also had an episode, in season 2, maybe.
Okay.
But Peanut Hamper has been one of the better things on the show, and I think bringing back good guest stars like Peanut Hamper and Agamus, that's something the show needs to do. Yeah.
So, but do you feel like they are jumping the gun at all when they have the AIs in a support group together?
Jumping the gun in what sense?
It's just getting a little cheesy. There's a little too. It's making it a little too silly, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
I mean, it is, but the show is always going to be silly. And it also, thematically, it fits with the episode, right? Because, spoilers, the revelation is that neither Peanut Hamper nor Agamus actually wants to be evil anymore.
Yeah.
So I feel like it gives a unity to the episode, the fact that they spend so much time with the support group. I also really did enjoy the line. I forget what the computer's name was, Tyrannus or something like that. But
yeah.
What I really need to subjugate are my feelings. That was good. I think the best part of this episode is if you have a blue light, you're good. If you have a red light, you're bad. That was very funny. Yeah. I will say I almost resented this episode a little bit because it makes this idea less possible. But I now do want to hold, because you've already kind of told the Agamus story, so you can't if you bring Agamus back as evil again, it's not going to be satisfying.
Yeah.
But if you'd had a standalone episode that was just like an episode of Oz but with evil computers on a prison colony, that would be hilarious. That it's so funny.
Yeah, I totally watched that. They need to make it a very short trick.
So I disagree. I want it to be played sometimes straight and at Lower Decks length. Or actually, you know what? Prodigy's not going to do anything useful. Make that an episode of Prodigy.
There you go.
Maybe send Hollow Janeway, even though I think she's dead now, but send Hollow Janeway to the Daystrom Institute. Have her do some hard time for impersonating Catherine Janeway.
Wait, Hollow Janeway's dead?
I think she dies at the end of season 1. I don't remember. It sucked.
Oh, okay. I was I thought that was a big piece of that show.
Well, real Janeway is in the second half of this.
Oh, okay. So they just brought in actual Janeway. Okay.
Yeah. It's now just going to be real Janeway.
And Chekate too, right?
Yeah, although he's been saying some fucked up shit on Twitter, so they might. What was that? What was that chick from Star Wars?
Oh
Dune or whatever.
The,
They
the
might,
really like Amazonian looking woman.
yeah. They
Would have
they
been a
might,
great Wonder Woman.
yeah. They might cut him out like they cut her out. He's been saying some pretty nasty anti-trans stuff online.
Well, at least he waited 20-something years after his show aired.
Yeah, it's really funny. It's like, I don't know. It's like, oh, hey man, you want to make a comeback and make some money? It's like, nah, I'd rather just be in my feelings about my hatred of trans people.
Yeah,
it's like, all right, dude.
It's like no one's thought of your character for a very, very long time.
Well, it has provoked some interesting debates I've seen online of like, is Chakotay a bad character or is Robert Beltran just a bad actor and a bad person? And certainly maybe all three are true, maybe only a couple are true. I don't know. It's an interesting debate.
I haven't watched enough Voyager to really make a call on that, so maybe if we do go through Voyager, I need to take some notes.
Oh, we will never go episode by episode through Voyager, my dude. We'll hit some high points if you want at some point, but we're never going episode to episode. Not unless we start like making gangbusters on that Patreon, which I don't see coming. Let's see. So
we'll start a Patreon of rewatching Voyager episodes to try to determine if what's the guy's name? What's Chakotay's actual name? The actor's
Robert
name?
Beltran.
If Robert Beltran was really transphobic then, see if there's subtle hints. Follow us on Patreon, and we'll slowly dive into this controversy.
It is interesting because I feel like a lot of trans viewers identify with 7 of 9 for like understandable reasons, right? Yeah, and it's given that there's no hint of this until the finale, but given that in the finale they make such a point of just randomly throwing Chakotay and 7 together, that's kind of interesting in hindsight.
I just don't know how you could even like sign up to act on a Star Trek show and not be, kind of more open-minded about everything.
You would hope.
I guess money gets involved, and that's when it's a problem.
I mean, I guess we also have to kind of remember that we're talking about, not to excuse older people being bigoted, but we are talking about people whose minds are not working as well as they used to. That sometimes like early signs of cognitive trouble include like difficulty processing information, abrupt hostility, and there is like a well-funded industry that makes millions of dollars on social media and to some extent on the right-wing news shows of like demonizing trans people. So it's not, it's not super surprising that some people do fall for that stuff.
That's true. And then again, also, I mean, he hasn't done much work since then, right? I don't think so.
I think he had like some presence in like Latino indie movies. Like I don't think I'm putting words in his mouth to say. I think like my guy Alan had seen him in a couple kind of like 90s like Latino indie movies, right? Like, oh, here's a movie about gangsters. Here's a movie about guys coming up in the 50s, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I don't think he had much success before or after Voyager. And he was famously pretty unhappy about the way his character was handled in Voyager, and one would have to say justly so.
Yeah. Yeah, makes sense. Well, maybe he's just secretly mad at 7 of 9 for taking the ladies.
You could also see like him like, since Voyager wasn't really a beltway for success for him, and since it was a kind of miserable 7-year experience, you could also see him kind of associating that in his mind with Star Trek's progressive values and kind of resenting both.
Oh, yeah. He's regretting the decision he made. And now he's blaming it on all the... Yeah. Well...
Yeah, and now so now he wants to make teenagers' lives hard. That's very good.
That's what old people do.
Yeah. All right, I guess we psychoanalyzed Chakotay / Robert Beltran enough. To make this is going to be a weird transition point, but I'll just go ahead and do it, Matt. So, Matt, are you like Agamus and me, that when a woman betrays you, it turns you on?
Not usually, Bob. I don't usually want women to betray me, but
Okay, so you're not normal. Okay, I got it. it. I'm the normal one here, Matt. You're the abnormal one.
yeah, that must be it, Bob.
I will say, since I think I already got us the explicit tag, sorry about that. It is pretty fucked up that Boimler's going to take Agamus back to prison.
Yeah,
He's got a blue light, man. He doesn't need to go back to prison. He's got a blue light.
There's nothing wrong with the dude. He's good. He's got the blue light of happiness, of good.
of peace and chilling with his best friend Peanut Hamper.
It's a blue light.
So, Matt, did you get Jason Ironheart from Babylon 5 vibes from Badgey at the end of this episode?
Yes, I find it weird that we both had that thought because it was coming across me and I'm like, that is just too obscure for anyone to even feel. And I'm like, then Bob's like putting in the notes. I'm like, oh, Bob feels it too.
I think that's the effect.
Jason Ironheart. Babylon 5, folks,
I think that's,
in case you're wondering.
Yeah, that's the effect of Babylon 5 v DS9. We haven't taken away anything else from Babylon 5 except for Jason Ironheart.
Yeah, it's just we see like these beings that seem like they're,
okay,
they're ultimately good and great. Bob, you there? You there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh, it's like going. It's like doing something weird with the timing. I don't know what's going on. All right, it's fine. I'll cut all that out. It's fine.
Okay.
Are you there? Okay.
Do you want to give it a? Are you still hearing me? Okay.
Yeah, I'm hearing you now. I think it's caught up. I think.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, this is unfortunate. Shit. This is unfortunate because the next thing I wanted to do was kind of read a Memory Alpha article because I think it's relevant.
Yeah, go ahead. Just put in. Just put in. You want to read the memory? Just say, like. I'll just cut all this part out. I'm just trying to figure out why it like the timing is off. Like the.
What if I gave you the link, did a little pre-game discussion of it, and then you read it?
Yeah, that works.
Okay, let me put it in. Sorry. So, Matt, did you catch that there's weird references in not just this episode, but in multiple earlier episodes of the show to the, quote, Black Mountain?
Yeah, what's the Black Mountain, Bob?
Well, since you asked, Matt, I give you the link to Memory Alpha.
I know, and I accidentally deleted the link. So I'm on a Mac, and I don't remember how it works.
You don't remember how to do an undo?
Is it no, Bob? Because there's literally extra buttons on here. There's a command,
it's back.
option,
it's back.
control.
It's back.
I know.
It's back.
I'm going. Now Command C. There we go.
Now, Matt, it's perfect. It's perfectly okay to read a Memory Alpha article on air. It's not okay to read out the keys on a Mac.
I'm just letting everybody know this is why I'm struggling right now because my computer is not the same. All right, the Black Mountain, Bob. The Black Mountain was, according to Shax, a spiritual battleground where the soul went after death. There they must find 3 faceless apparitions of their father, after which the surviving father makes them eat their heart. What? When did this happen? What is this?
Well, since you're asking, keep going.
I'm going. Hold on. In 2381, a resurrected Lieutenant Shax described his experience at the Black Mountain to Ensign Sam Rutherford. Later that year, when Lieutenant Commander Steve Stevens was brain dead for 10 minutes after being turned to stone by a psychic mine on Genghis 4, he said that saw a koala sitting on a black mountain. Oh shit, we got the koala. Later still,
Yeah.
When Lieutenant J.G. Brad Boimler briefly died after being caught in an explosion from a power relay on Corazonia, he found himself in a mysterious room where the Black Mountain was visible from the window.
So I didn't remember that at all, but I guess, yeah, when Boimler was in the Black Lodge, he looks out a window at the Black Mountain.
Yeah, and then when Badgey ascended, he suggested that he would check out the Black Mountain.
And then,
interesting. So is this our new, our new thing to add to Twin Peaks? Is there a Black Mountain? Is the Black Mountain where the fireman and that lady live?
Apparently, so Mike McMahon worked on cartoons. This says this below. He worked on cartoons Rick and Morty and Solar Opposites. Uh-huh. And apparently in both of those, they also mention the Black Mountain as being associated with death.
Okay. Well, that's
but
creepy.
It's funny that it's funny that like now that they say this, I remember all all three of these incidents more or less.
I do,
But
yeah. I remember the dude getting turned
yeah,
to stone. I remember, yeah. I remember
yeah.
when Shax came back from the dead.
Yeah,
But
but I just didn't remember the Black Mountain, and it just didn't stick until Badgey says it in this episode. It's the only time when it really registered for me.
well, Bob, not to ruin anything for you, but you do know that that Black Mountain looks a lot like a mountain that Paramount uses.
Oh yeah, actually, I wonder if there's something going on with that too. Like it's a joke about the Paramount corporate logo. That's interesting.
Yeah, because there was a joke in the last episode about it. When
Do you remember what it
Boimler,
was?
no, it's when Boimler is watching television and there's a picture of the Paramount logo in the background and it shines and it talks about
Oh, that's
corporate
right. That's
advertising.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd forgotten that. I'd forgotten that, but you're right. Well, it's also interesting. I've just finished reading a series of like occult PI novels by a guy named Laird Barron, who was like
Yeah.
influential on old True Detective. And he's got an occult PI named Isaiah Coleridge, who's like based in the New York State mountains, and some of the Black Mountain imagery also kind of reminds me of the imagery in that series. So it's just interesting.
Oh, okay. Which one are you reading? The
But yeah.
Croning?
Though the Croning is like a sort of like fairy tale retell. It's like not my favorite, and it's not my friend's favorite either. The Isaiah Coleridge series is Blood Standard, Black Mountain, and Worse Angels.
Oh,
And
okay.
then there's also a novella that came out that I'm blanking on the name of, although the novella is kind of sad because apparently Barron got like super super sick and he couldn't finish the fourth novel, and so he just published it as a novella.
Okay.
So not great news. He's still alive, but I don't think he's in great health, which is sad.
All right. Well, now I know about the Black Mountain, which I knew nothing about before.
Yeah.
That's insane.
I just to transition to the end, the panic about Guji at the end of the episode from like Tindy, Boimler, and Mariner really did make me laugh, I have to say.
So did you catch the name though there with the Guji and the Badgey?
Yeah, I got it.
Is that not hilarious?
It's very funny. It's very funny.
Yeah.
I usually hate puns, but that's so funny.
It's brilliant.
All right, Matt. So, I love to make you rank things, and I think this episode really begs that we should rank Star Trek fathers from best to worst. So,
Yes,
give us
we have very different rankings, so we'll get to that.
Yeah.
All right, Bob. And when it comes to fathers from best to worst, Rutherford's the best father. Then I've got Sarek, because he's always around all the damn time, it seems like.
It's not positive, but he's at least present.
He's there. You know he exists. And you know that Spock's okay because he's got like a human mom. So it's like, okay. All right. Jean-Luc Picard didn't know he had a son.
Yes.
So he's next on the list. I'm sorry.
No, you're reading my list.
I'm reading your list. Sorry, hold on. Let me get back to where I'm sorry. Kyle Riker. Kyle Riker saved his son in the end.
But he was a bad father, though.
He was a pretty rough father, but in the end, Bob, he sacrificed his life for his kid. Got to give him that.
Oh, he did? I didn't remember that part.
Yeah. He took a shot for Riker. Bashir.
Richard Bashir.
Richard Bashir's parents meant well, Bob.
No, God damn it. That's Julian Bashir's the character. Richard Bashir's the father.
Yeah, Richard Bashir meant well doing that to his kid. Giving him he meant well to help him. He wanted him to be
giving him the
successful.
genetic augmentation. Yeah.
Yes, I don't see what's the problem with that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't either. I agree with you.
Rom, not a bad dad, not a good dad. He was there. He did support his kid. He didn't really have much interest in Rom learning to read and do stuff, but in the end, he did support Rom. I mean, he did support, what's the kid's name? Nog. He did support Nog. So we're okay there.
Having a father that stupid is traumatic. This is where I disagree with you.
He can't help it, though, Bob. He can't pick who his father is.
He could have not reproduced.
Rom could not have, but Nog had no choice.
Yeah. I'm not blaming Nog. I'm sympathizing with Nog for the trauma of having such a stupid father.
All right, Bob. Ducat Ducat had a lot of kids, right?
But mostly we see him with his half Bajoran daughter, Tora Zial. And as I recall, maybe I'm forgetting something messed up, but as I recall, Ducat was a good father to Tora Zial.
Yeah, to her, but I thought he had like a bunch of other kids he wouldn't care for.
Yeah, but I mean, we never saw him with those, so we can't go off of those.
The only reason he cared about that other kid was because of political reasons. That's the only reason he like really cared about that kid.
I mean, that's hinted, but we never see it. Like, he's a good father.
So that's why I'm putting Ducat there. But then, Bob, you got...
Look, Matt, I'm just saying Ducat did nothing wrong, okay?
Yeah, okay, I agree with that. All right, Picard, Bob. Picard didn't know he had a kid.
But how
that's
was
why
he
he's
once
next.
How was he once he figured out he had those kids, Matt?
He started a relationship with that kid. That was the whole season, Picard season 3.
Well, and there was also that whole one in season 7 where he had a son too. That wasn't good.
Shit, I forgot about that.
Although I think that turned out to not actually be his son. I don't remember.
Yeah, it turns out Picard just didn't know, and I can't help. I get that. It's all right. That's why he's not.
Matt identifies with that.
He's not high on the list. He's not on the bottom of the list. He just didn't know. All right, now Bob, Jim Kirk knew he had a son, right?
Well, in the movies, it's ambiguous, but I mean that is one thing that Strange New Worlds does that doesn't do his character any favors. It makes it clear that he did in fact know.
Exactly. So that's bad fathering. He knew he had a kid, and he didn't do anything. All right. Worf is the worst. He had a son, and then just literally forgets he has a kid, and never mentions the kid again. So he just abandons the kid. That's bad.
Yeah. I'm going to agree with you that Worf would be the worst if it were not for Rom being so stupid. So to go my list, bottom to top, Rom is the bottom, then Worf. I still feel like Kyle Riker was a very bad father, but I don't remember that episode very well. I don't remember this.
Okay, Bob. If Kyle Riker had not sacrificed himself for his son, then I would be different. But yeah, he's way further up because he took his own life for his kid.
Did he? He didn't die in that episode, though, did he?
I thought he died from a disruptor shot or something like that.
All right, we're gonna have to fact check this right quick.
Yeah.
I thought they just did that stupid American Gladiator sport together, and that was the climax.
Maybe.
No, just Kyle and his son were reunited in 2365 when Will, now first officer on the Enterprise D, was offered command of the Ares, and Kyle came aboard to brief Will on the Ares and its current mission. Though Will ultimately turned down command of the Ares, he and Kyle took the opportunity to finally settle their differences.
Yeah, they did. And then it says...
Yeah, no, nothing, because then they just mention him in the episode where he gets another son because of the transporter accident. He's never seen again.
Where am I reading that he took a disruptor
That's in
blast?
Maybe in the paracanon.
Paracanon stuff. Yeah. I looked it up. That's why I didn't. And the actor died March 6th of 2022. That's sad. Okay. Here we go.
Yeah, I didn't read that paracanon, and it means nothing to me. All right, so I'm going to stick with Kyle Riker being just above Worf.
All right,
I'll put Jim Kirk above Kyle Riker. I'll put Picard above Jim Kirk. Actually, I'd had Richard Bashir lower, but you convinced me that he did nothing wrong, so I moved him up above Picard. Sarek, not a great father, but similarly like Richard Bashir, only wanted what was best for his kids, pushed him to be the best, and unlike Richard Bashir, did not have to serve a prison sentence.
Yeah.
So I'll put him above Richard Bashir. I'll put Scran G. Ducat above Sarek because I think he was a great father, and then I'll put Rutherford above Ducat.
Dukat, you have no clue about Dukat. You have no idea.
Yes, I have a great clue about Dukat because I see him father Toro Zial in multiple episodes of Star Trek DS9, and
But she was a political pawn. She was a part of it. Like it was.
Did he ever treat her as a political pawn? No.
But
he loved her and he welcomed her, despite the fact that all of Cardassian society was against her.
Yeah. Okay. We're not going to agree on this. I think Dukat was not a good father.
Yeah. Clearly, we're not going to agree for some
Cardassian kids. I think he had hundreds of Cardassian Bajoran kids.
And I'm sure there's some great, terrible novel about what a bad father he is to his Cardassian children. But unlike you, Matt, I haven't read that one, and I also haven't read the memory beta summary of that time Kyle Riker threw himself in front of a disruptor blast for Will. All right, and also I would expect someone who puts Rom in the middle. I don't value your rankings of Dukat.
Bob. Rom was born dumb. But
yes,
based on the Lower Decks episode, though, Rom was kind of smart because...
Matt, you can fix stupid. It's called a vasectomy.
Nog becomes Doesn't Nog become the first Ferengi to join Starfleet?
No thanks to Rom.
Well, that's his dad. He had to be born.
Quark did more to father that boy than Rom ever did. Quark gave him cunning, guile, cleverness. What did Rom give him? A good heart. Oh, shove your good heart up your ass, Rom. I don't care.
Oh, man. Rom was supportive of Nog going into Starfleet.
Yes, and Quark wasn't. But the resistance from Quark made Nog a better officer, damn it.
Okay.
You know what? If I were to rank Quark as Nog's father, I'd put him pretty high on the list. Maybe higher than
Would you put him above Rom?
Yes, you obviously, because Rom was at the bottom of the list.
Oh yeah. All right, Bob. So let's talk.
I can think of one character we can both agree who belongs even lower than Worf and Rom. Matt.
Okay.
That's George Kirk as played by, I believe, Chris Hemsworth.
Yes.
He gets killed, and if a father loves their kid, they shouldn't get killed.
Stupid. All right, Bob. Let's transition back into our characters of the week for Lower Decks episode.
Who is your Lower Deck character of the week, Matt?
I'm gonna go with Peanut Hamper, Bob. I liked her in the last episode that she was in, and apparently, I guess she was in a season 2 episode. I completely forgot, but Peanut Hamper.
Yeah, because she abandons them, and I think the season 2 finale.
Yes,
and then she shows up in the Peanut Hamper Does Avatar episode, right?
Correct. Yes.
Right. Peanut Hamper is a great choice. I went with Agamus, or Ags, as Peanut Hamper calls him, but it was nice to see both. I'm glad they get a somewhat happy ending, although I'm also kind of sad that it seems like probably this is like writing both of them off the show, more or less, you know?
Yeah, I don't know if they're coming back or not. But
yeah, it doesn't seem like it. Doesn't seem like it. All right, Matt, it's been a long road getting from there to here, but are you ready to do the plot summary of episode 7 of the Filmation Trek, that is Infinite Vulcan?
That is correct, Bob, and I will begin that by saying that on the planet Phyllis, the crew encounters an advanced plant race enthralled to the gigantic clone of a eugenics war refugee, Dr. Stavros Kalikulis V, who kidnaps and embiggens Spock, desiring his hybrid genetics.
Yeah, so this is the episode that poor Walter Koenig had to write instead of being on the show. Kind of ironic that he takes the opportunity to make his boy Sulu so prominent in this episode.
Yeah, Sulu gets the final word here, and he has like an action scene, like the really only animated fight action scene in this show.
Yeah, we get to see Sulu do some judo. So, Matt, this episode is also the source of 2 very famous memes. One is McCoy standing over Sulu saying that his dick fell off because a woman wrote words on the internet. And the other is Kirk choking the Phalosian plant person Agmar, not to be confused with Agamus from last episode. No. What do you prefer, Kirk choking Agmar or Sulu's dick having fallen off?
Definitely Kirk choking Agmar. There's just something funny about him choking a plant.
Yeah, although actually in the actual image, it doesn't so much look like he's choking him. It just looks like he's very intently grabbing him by the shoulders to tell him something vital.
That's how you choke plants, Bob.
Yeah, you choke their plant shoulders, not their plant necks.
Yes.
Yeah, good point. Good point. That's a great image. I'm going to still go with Sulu's dick having fallen off because it makes me laugh every time. But both are great memes. So, Matt, I remembered that there were Philosians who are in the background of Lower Decks, the plant people. But I had totally forgotten that in Season 1, Mariner tries to set Boimler up with one.
Yeah, I don't remember that at all. I need to go back and rewatch the first season of Lower Decks.
We could always do coverage of it.
Yeah, we could. Yeah, we could. Maybe the writer's strike will force us to. Or now that it's coming to an end.
Well, but the actors' strike, it looks like they've just suspended talks.
Never mind then. Yeah, we'll probably go into that then if we need to. Because...
Yeah. Solidarity to the actors. I hope they get a good deal. I do love in this episode that we have tentacled dragons that are actually plants and that are called swoopers. It's just delightful madness.
Yeah, they look like the typical flying bad guys in like an old school Nintendo video game. I have a question, Bob. When the swoopers came down at one point, did the screen go completely dark for you? Like they were saying it was too dark to see them?
I don't think so.
Okay, I don't know what I was thinking. I when I was filling in the notes, because I usually fill in the notes after I watch the show, and for some reason I remember this, and I'm going to go back and watch it again today. But I feel like they were trying to avoid animation by just saying it was too dark to see anything.
But I don't know because they show a lot of the swoopers later though.
Yeah, they do. They show the like little purple like flying creature things.
Yeah, I'm as I've confessed to our listeners before, I take my notes while I watch the show, so I'm not always watching the screen as intensely as I should, especially for Filmation Star Trek where it's pretty rough sometimes.
And me, folks, I watch the show, and then it may be days later before I go and fill in the notes, so I just have to start making up shit.
Yeah, you just make up lies about dark screens and Rom being a good father. You just make up.
Rom was a damn good father. That is not a lie. Now the black screen thing that may have been an issue with me, but that's good.
Maybe you just got a glimpse of the Black Mountain.
Yeah, or maybe the TV just turned off and I didn't realize it. Got to turn it back on.
All distinct possibilities, my dude.
Yeah, there are lots of options here.
I had totally forgotten that this wacky episode, which I did remember being a wacky episode with Giant Spock, but I had totally forgotten that it tied in so tightly to Khan. And, really this episode was the secret to making Picard Season 2 not suck. They just needed a giant clone of Picard in that season.
Well, yeah, I mean, when they started mentioning the eugenics war, I was like, damn, this is getting serious. And I'm like trying really hard to make this one relevant. And
and you got to give it to Walter Coing, man. He's trying to do a lot of world building in this script. They're reaffirming the IDIC thing, the infinite diversity and infinite combinations, which was introduced on the original series, but they're reaffirming it here. They have a really interesting line where, they say that humanism is the official ideology of the Federation, that Dr. Coliculus is banished for being anti-humanist. And then they also hint at the Kzinti, right? We still haven't seen them yet. We're going to see them much later in this season, but it's just wild that they're hinting at the Kzinti before they show up.
Yeah, this was an interesting. I feel like were they trying to do some long term storytelling with this series, or?
Not really. I feel like they probably just knew they had the rights, and so
threw it in. Use them. Yeah.
Yeah, through the and I'm sure you don't have to pay for them. Probably don't have to pay for the mention. Just probably have to pay for the thing itself. So it's not extra money.
Right.
Also, so this episode ends on a really weird joke where Kirk talks about really wanting to learn the judo throw that Sulu used in hand-to-hand combat. And then Sulu says something to the effect of, you have to be inscrutable in order to do it. And then Kirk replies, Sulu, you're the most scrutable man I know. Matt, did you get what was going on in that joke?
No, I'm not going to lie, Bob. I had to look up the word scrutable because it's not a word I use very often.
Yeah.
It apparently means capable of being understood by careful study or investigation.
And so, do you know what inscrutable means, Matt?
I'm assuming it means not being capable or understood.
Yeah, it means mysterious or difficult to understand or difficult to decipher motives of.
Okay.
And so, do you know what racial stereotype that term inscrutable is often used to further?
Probably the Japanese.
East Asians in
Chinese,
general, East Asians in
Asians.
general, I would say, yeah, like that's a kind of famously loaded term to talk about. I mean, you can use
Oh,
inscrutable in other contexts, but it's a famously like loaded racial term to talk about East Asians.
oh
So
wow.
yeah, I think it's. I mean, it's supposed to be like an anti-racist joke, but it just kind of lands a little
It
oddly,
doesn't
I
land right at
think.
all, especially when you have to go look the word up because you could tell it's not a word that like it's for an animated series that's coming on a children's cartoon on a Saturday morning. I mean, it just doesn't fit.
Well, I mean, but
If you
Matt,
say
when
something
you
like, if you would have said something, wow, you really threw him for a loop, that would have been funnier. Like, ha ha ha, because he threw him. Not, you're the most
yeah.
scrutable man I know, or an inscrutable. Like,
Well,
what the
I mean,
fuck?
hey, it's important to teach the kids not to be racist against East Asians, and
But
B,
Bob,
I would.
doesn't it use a particularly like, isn't saying or isn't that a stereotype though, saying that they're scrutable
Yeah,
or
but
not scrutable?
it's rejecting the stereotype.
Oh, it's backwards. Okay, so so inscrutable is the bad
Yeah,
thing, and they're saying
it,
he's
like
scrutable, so he's
East,
good. Okay.
East Asians are stereotypically held to be mysterious, emotionally reserved, hard to know what they're thinking. They're held to be quote
Okay,
inscrutable. That's
but
that's
he's
the
saying that
racial
Sulu
stereotype.
is definitely scrutable.
Yes, yes,
Gotcha. So he's not like that. He is not
yes,
your
yes.
stereotypical
He's
Asian
defeating the
man.
stereotype. And I would also say, just to the larger point, Matt, when you write a show for children, the result is prodigy. Much better to write a cartoon for adults, and then just let the children kind of nod along confusedly as it goes.
I agree, Bob. That's what I did with it, and it worked.
Damn, son. Damn.
All right.
All right, Matt. So, who was your character of the week for this filmation?
So,
For
Bob,
this filmation.
my character of the episode for this filmation episode is McCoy, and it's for using his great grandfather's pesticide recipe to straight up murder an endangered plant species. Yeah. Way to go, McCoy.
All right, Matt. So your overall picks for so your picks for this week have been you've had McCoy, you've had Peanut Hamper, you had Rom, and then who did you have for the Survivor? Spock.
Yeah.
You really like Spock's rule following. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So of those four, who's your overall between between McCoy, between Rom, between Spock, and between who was the other one? Peanut Hamper.
These are my options.
These are your options.
Well, I know that I could pick Rom because I know you hate Rom, but that would be too easy. So
That's violence. That's violence.
yeah, McCoy was cool with his like secret recipe, but it was kind of cheesy. I did like Spock's
would
rule
be-
following.
It would be
Peanut
pretty
Hamper was
surprising to
funny.
make McCoy to give it to a Filmation character. That would be pretty surprising.
Yeah, why not just give it to McCoy? Let's do that. We'll give it to McCoy. I think his brilliant idea for how to wipe out this an entire species of this entire alien race was just scary. It's like your phasers don't
right.
work, so we'll use pesticide guns.
Just going straight to the chemical warfare.
Yeah,
It's like no. It's
let's
like
jump
no,
right in
it's
there.
Not, it's not good. Not good.
I'm pretty sure that would not be okay on most. Like if that was like live action Shrek, it would
Yeah,
have looked
yeah.
way worse.
So my options are the couple that is Rutherford and Tendi, or Mares, or Agamar, or Agamus. I'll go just to keep the humor of going with Filmation ones going. I'll go Agamar. I really do like Kirk choking Agamar.
Well, damn, it looks like we liked that last episode. We appreciate it.
Way to go, Walter Cohen. Way to write a good episode
Yeah.
of Star Trek, even though they won't let you back on the show. Poor guy.
Yeah, and your best character was on Babylon 5, so
I wonder if it was something like if something had happened in between U.S.-Soviet relations between 1969 and 1973, kind of like the Ukraine war now, and they're just like, no Russians anywhere.
jeez. Poor Walter Cohen.
Liberals do be hating Russians almost as much as they hate Palestinians. And on that note, this has been Uncanny Treks covering Star Trek Filmation and Star Trek Lower Decks. I am Bob in Cascadia, expressing the anti-liberal opinions. That is Matt in the Southland, being studiously neutral and uncomfortable with Bob's aggressivity. And thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening, folks.